And I don't know why they would necessarily redact someone's name who is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No.
You have suggested you are going to review that.
Rona?
Are you going to review it in our next break?
Who's Rona?
The record, yes or no?
Yes. Quick, Jeffrey, I'm up next. Is that an acronym?
What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released? When you don't want something like this.
That's not the question. The question was, why didn't you release it? Trump wasn't hiding anything when Biden was in charge there, Chucky. Democrats caught red-handed, spreading hoaxes about Epstein. We've already seen this before. And now the Oversight Committee is chronicling it in a beautiful thread where they are showing just how big of liars the Democrats really are. And you may have seen this one already, but they deleted this ridiculous post. They said, "New from the Democrats. Documents show that Trump spent Thanksgiving with Epstein in 2017. At the time, Trump was already president and Epstein was already a convicted offender." Okay. So since he was the president and everybody knows where the president is at every single minute, you can prove that somewhere, right? Well, they couldn't because it's not true. So they had to come out and delete this entire post. And it's just one of many. They just came out swinging because they have nothing else to talk about. Their policies are terrible. Their biggest star is a communist called Mamdani. They just got crushed in the shutdown. And so it's all Epstein all the time. But now Trump is also saying, release the files already. All right. I know we said we were going to release them and then not release them. Well, now we're back to releasing them again. And we just got over our whiplash from not releasing them. And so now we're back in releasing them again. It's like, and you know, all right, it's what it is. So we're happy that we're getting some progress on this. Of course, the criticism about this post is that the president is just trying to get ahead of a bad vote that's not going to go his way. But the president did say that. He said, as I said on Friday night, aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, House Republicans should, like what? Vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide. And it's time to move on from this Democrat hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. The Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on, quote, Epstein, are looking at various Democrat operatives, Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc., and their relationship to Epstein, and the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. All I do care about is that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we are winning big. Our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level in history to practically nothing, bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts, gaining trillions of dollars of investment into America, a record, the rebuilding of our military, securing our border, deporting criminal illegal aliens, ending men and women's sports, stopping transgender for everyone, and so much more. Nobody cared about Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive, and if the Democrats had anything, they would have had released it before our landslide election victory, which I think is true. Some members of the Republican Party are being used, and we can't let that happen. Let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements and do not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. Make America great again. And the Democrats are now deleting their hoax scam on this thing, and I think that they're going to be in for a big reckoning and an awakening because Clinton, all over the files, Reid Hoffman, many mentions, and now the Oversight Committee is showing how desperate they are. They come out, they try to smear the right, and they fail. Says Democrats got caught red-handed, spreading a hoax about Trump and Epstein. They misled the public, lied about witness testimony, doctored documents, and are now scrambling to cover it up. We have the receipts that they don't want you to read. Here they are. Let's start with the former AG called Bill Barr. We know him. Democrats claim that Barr, quote, could not clear Trump of wrongdoing after his deposition. What? But what did Barr actually say? This. There was no evidence. And if the Southern District of New York had anything on Trump, they would have indicted him. They didn't. On August 18, 2025, the Oversight Committee conducted a deposition with Bill Barr, former U.S. Attorney General under Trump. During his depo, Barr was asked about the following by Jasmine Crockett from Texas. All right, so just add a little accent to this. And you have no direct knowledge of any of the now young women or women that claim that they had encounters with the president through Epstein, correct? I never was told by the Southern District that they had evidence to support any claim like that. Then another staffer asked this question. Okay, Bill. Okay, so in your experience, you have no doubt if Southern District of New York prosecutors saw evidence of a crime, they would have followed that evidence, right? And if it led to an indictment, they would have indicted. And if it led to a conviction, they would have followed the facts where they led. Is that fair? Yes, for that group. I also feel, they would have done the same for Clinton, I believe. Bill says, I think, remember this stuff also went on under Biden's administration, and they were looking for something to bring against Trump. And this was, if they had evidence, this would have been low-hanging fruit. I was never informed of the evidence, and I'm skeptical there is any. money from Bill Barr. Yeah. Then Alexander Acosta. Remember, he was the first prosecutor that gave Epstein that sweetheart deal. They tried to smear Trump by linking him to Epstein in the 2007 case. But Acosta, the prosecutor, came in and crushed their whole narrative. He testified that he never spoke, emailed, or had any contact with Trump about Epstein. Ever. None. Robert Garcia says, all right, Alexander, so you never, the entire time you were U.S. attorney, you never once spoke to Donald Trump the entire time. Let me be more clear. I did not speak with President Trump, with Donald Trump, before I was considered for Secretary of Labor. You never had a phone conversation? Also, not just a meeting, never a phone any kind of conversation with Donald Trump before? I did not have an in-person conversation. I did not have a phone conversation. Email? We hadn't shaken hands. What about any of his associates? Email, text, any of that? He says no email to my recollection, no text to my recollection, no associates to my recollection. He moved in circles that I did not move in, to be honest, which in it of itself is kind of crazy. Like Trump didn't even know anything about his Secretary of Labor. Did the FBI interview Trump or speak with him with regards to this case? Alexander, I did not direct the investigation. If our prosecutors thought they should pursue that lead, they were free to pursue that lead. If a prosecutor thought, but it is possible that they did based on their relationship. I have no knowledge that any person spoke to Donald Trump with respect to Epstein. I have no knowledge of Donald Trump's name appearing in any Epstein document. I have no knowledge of Donald Trump being associated with the Epstein investigation in any way. I am not saying that it wasn't, because I can't speak on behalf of the many, many attorneys and case agents involved. I can simply say that I have no knowledge of that. And let me also say, I think if there was, I think it's pretty spectacular it hasn't leaked by now, but that's just speculation. Yeah, pretty good speculation, what do you think? So what did the Democrats do? Well, they leaked 3 cherry-picked emails out of 23,000 pages, and they made their own redactions to hide the facts. One name they blacked out, Virginia Gouveia. Why? Because she publicly said she never saw Trump do anything wrong. And we covered this email at length, but you can see what the Democrats did here. They just redacted it. That's her name from the email. I want you to realize that the dog that hasn't barked is Trump. This victim, this is what the Democrats posted, spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned, the police chief and more. The name was Virginia, and she wrote a book and was unequivocal. Trump did nothing wrong. But another Democrat redaction for their hoax, who was this? Oh yeah, Prince Andrew. They hid that one. Why? Because the redacted context changes the email. They were fabricating a smear campaign. They were not telling the truth. This name was redacted right here. The Democrats said, victim Mar-a-Lago, blank, blank, blank. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course, he knew about the girls as he asked Glenn to stop. It's like, wow, that's very nice of Trump to do that. Glenn, I know you're stealing our people. I know that Epstein's a pervert. Please stop doing it. The email was about this. Virginia worked at Mar-a-Lago. She was the one that accused Prince Andrew. It was Virginia who says that she was, attacked by Prince Andrew, and he basically resigned all of his titles and more, because it's probably true. Then they lied about who did the redactions. Remember this? The Republicans redacted these things. No, they didn't. You guys did. Because you know that if you can fact check your stupid claims, everyone will know you're liars. Crockett and others went on CNN pretending they had no idea who made the edits. CNN corrected them live. Here's this clip of Jasmine. You can watch CNN explain.
This is an email from April 2nd, 2011. Republicans are saying that victim is Virginia Gouveia. As you know, she died by suicide. She's been very outspoken victim of Jeffrey Epstein. Here's the email right here on your screen. She wrote a book, as you know, and she did not accuse him of any wrongdoing. What do you make of that? And can you confirm that?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's redacted who the victim is, so I won't necessarily take the Republicans' word on who it is that's redacted. And I don't know why they would necessarily redact someone's name who is deceased at this point.
The Democrats did that, though. The Democrats redacted.
No, I understand, okay, but I'm just saying, our biggest concern is to actually make sure that we are protecting victims. And obviously, she wrote a book. She told her truth.
Yeah, so she told her truth, and the truth did not implicate Trump in any way. And the Democrats redacted it. Why? You don't have to take the Republicans' word for it. The Democrats redacted it. The reason being they wanted to cover up the truth. And it looks a lot worse if you can hide the truth. Yeah, when I first saw that hairdo, it reminded me of that creature from The Fifth Element. Remember that opera singer? Which maybe is what she's going for. She's nailing it. We released everything. 23,000 pages. Suddenly the Democrats, who spent months screaming, release the files, now said, you released too many files. This is disorienting to us. This is distracting for our brains. The sheer volume is disorienting us. Then the fake and dishonest New York Times quietly edited their piece. They removed the word disorient from the page. They're literally helping the Democrats rewrite history after their hoax fell apart. They then changed it. It was intended intended to disorient, because they can't read that many documents. It's too much for the little pea brains. And to distract attention from their revelations. They just changed it. It's not, some Democrats, we're not disoriented. Change that right now. Oversight Committee says, but here's something no one is talking about. In 2019, Stacey Plaskett was texting with Epstein during an actual House hearing. And we released a video on this one and talked about this on a Membo stream. We'll play it again. But Epstein helped Plaskett question a discredited witness who hated Trump. This should be the biggest story in the whole country. The fact that our congresspeople are like little puppets who have some, weird perverts sending them text messages, operating them like a little doll. It's really sick. We should be able to see who these people are texting with, but we'll never see that, of course. Here's this ridiculous exchange. Washington Post did the matchup on this, and this was epic. Hey, message from Epstein over to Stacey Plaskett. Are you chewing? I want you to be polite when you're representing me in Congress.
The United States. And while
She looks down.
Driving through a struggling neighborhood in Chicago.
Not anymore.
He commented
742.
that only black people could live that way.
Michael Cohen is testifying. Michael Cohen is coming after Trump, the same guy who testified against Trump in his false business records fake prosecution. He's now there, and Epstein is communicating with Plaskett. Not anymore. Sorry about that. I'm not chewing. I don't want to embarrass you, Jeffrey.
Attorney-client privilege, yes, I will turn it over.
Message. Cohen brought up Rona. She is a keeper of the secrets. Epstein says that to Stacey. Rona, keeper of the secrets.
My friend Mr. Meadows pointed out misled this committee even today in a written submission that contradicted your testimony. You have suggested you are going to review that.
Rona?
Are you going to review it in our next break?
Who's Rona?
Correct the record, yes or no?
Yes.
Quick,
Question,
Jeffrey,
you
I'm
helped
up
out the
next. Is that an
president's
acronym?
campaign, or
Jeffrey,
were
quick.
involved in the campaign as a representative, as a spokesman, even in your words today.
That's his
your idea
assistant.
For the campaign dating back to 2011. Is that accurate, yes or no?
Yes.
Mr. Weisenberg and other individuals, Ms. Rona. Who are those individuals? Are they with the Trump organization?
They
and
are.
Are there other people that we should be meeting with?
So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer.
You got to quickly give us as many names as you can so we can get to them.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Ms. Rona, what is Ms. Rona's position?
Rona Graff is the Mr. Trump's executive assistant.
And would she be able to corroborate many of the statements that you've made here?
Yes, her office is directly next to his, and she's involved in a lot.
Good work
that went on.
from Jeffrey. Nice work. I own you. Anna Paulina Luna said, like I said before, this is good. We need to release these things. Trump has zero to hide, and some have used this whole thing in an effort to smear the president, which is incredibly sad because the victims deserve justice. The truth always comes out. I look forward to our continued investigations into this on Oversight. From Anna Paulina Luna, which we hope is true. Now, Thomas Massie, this is an older clip from when Cash was out, but now this is, I think, becoming more and more relevant. Thomas Massie goes through a whole list of people that might be implicated in this thing. Let's see what he said and what Kash Patel had to say in response.
Director Patel, I watched some of your Senate hearing yesterday when Senator Kennedy asked you've seen most of the files, who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these women to besides himself? You replied, according to the transcript, there is no credible information that he trafficked them to anyone else. You also said somewhere in the hearing and here today that the problem is that the case files are constrained by limited search warrants from 2006 to 2007 and that the non-prosecution agreement hamstrung future investigations. Those constraints only apply to the Southern District of Florida. They do not apply to the Southern District of New York, the location of the 2019 sex trafficking indictment, which produced many things, including a series of FD 302 documents. According to victims who cooperated with the FBI in that investigation, these documents in FBI possession, your possession, detail at least 20 men, including Mr. Jess Staley, CEO of Barclays Bank, who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked victims to. Victims including minors, such as Virginia Roberts Giuffre, may she rest in peace. That list also includes at least 19 other individuals, one Hollywood producer worth a few $100 million, one royal prince, one high-profile individual in the music industry, one very prominent banker, one high-profile government official, one high-profile former politician, one owner of a car company in Italy, one rock star, one magician, at least 6 billionaires, including a billionaire from Canada. We know these people exist in the FBI files, the files that you control. I don't know exactly who they are, but the FBI does. Have you launched any investigations into any of these people, and have you seen these 302 documents?
Sir, I have asked my FBI agents to review the entirety of the Epstein files and bring forth any credible information, and we're working with Congress not only to divulge that information and produce it to you, but any investigations that arise from any credible investigation will be brought. There have been no new materials brought to me launching a new indictment.
So is the loophole here, or is it your assertion that these victims aren't credible, that the 302s maybe didn't produce credible statements that rise to a probable cause?
It's not my assertion, sir. It's the assertion of 2 different United States attorneys' offices from 3 separate administrations who investigated those same materials in lifetime.
Are the 302 documents in the FBI's possession?
They reviewed all that, yes, sir.
And so have you reviewed those 302 documents where the victims name the people who victimized them?
If I personally know, but the FBI has.
Yeah. So how can you sit here and in front of the Senate and say there are no names?
I said
I named one today.
I said we are not in the practice at the Department of Justice FBI of releasing victims' names. That is not what we do. We are also not in the habit of releasing incredible information. That's not what we do. But multiple authorities have looked at the entirety of what we have.
Okay.
Yeah. So some names being floated around out there. And of course, you don't want innocent people to have their names released and to be skewered in the court of public opinion. But you also don't want criminals roaming around because your government is complicit in covering up their criminality. Now, here's more. Schumer got asked about this today. You know, you guys had 4 years to release all this stuff. If you thought there was something damning in there for the president, why didn't you release it, Chuck?
Just, I guess, a question that's out there. Why wouldn't they have been released the last 4 years when President Biden was in office?
Well, that's the question every American is asking. Not every American, but so many Americans are asking. What the hell is he hiding? Why doesn't he want them released? When you don't want something like that...
That's not the question. The question was, why didn't you release it? Trump wasn't hiding anything when Biden was in charge there, Chucky.
Released when even a whole lot of Republicans are calling for the release, his own party members, people ask the question, what's he hiding? It's got to be answered by releasing the files.
Well, he just said, release the files. And so we're looking forward to that, Chuck. You should be happy about that, too. Mike Johnson was caught in the halls by Manu Raju over in the halls of Congress today. News just spoke with Johnson on the Epstein bill and Marjorie. Asked him if he's going to support the bill that he's been seen as trying to kill. He says, I was never trying to kill this bill. We just didn't like the mechanism by which it was being requested. Here is Mike Johnson.
I also believe it is entirely moot point because, as you know, the Oversight Committee is doing all their deliberate work. So
you talked to the president. Do you advise him to get behind it?
He and I talked about it quite a bit, but I'm not going to get into the content of what was said. But his statements speak for themselves, and he's never had anything to hide. He and I had the same concern that we wanted to ensure that victims of these heinous crimes are completely protected from disclosure. Those who don't want their names to be out there, and I'm not sure the discharge does that, and that's part of the problem.
The president has called Marjorie Taylor Greene a traitor. She says that it's impacting her security and safety. Would you advise the president to stop calling her a traitor?
It's not surprising that the president was frustrated.
It's not surprising the president is frustrated. Yeah, that's a true statement. Well done, Mike. So here's more from the president himself. He was in the Oval Office today talking about FIFA and some other things and was asked about the Epstein files. And Trump's voice is a little bit shot. Sounds like he was screaming at somebody this morning over a trade deal or something like that. But here is the president on the Epstein files.
Here's what I want. We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others are all Democrats. All I want is I want for people to recognize a great job that I've done on pricing, on affordability, because we brought prices way down, but they're going way lower, on energy, on ending 8 wars, and another one coming pretty soon, I believe. We've done a great job, and I hate to see that deflect from the great job we've done. So I'm all for it. You know, we've already given 50,000 pages. You do know that. Unfortunately, like with the Kennedy situation, with the Martin Luther King situation, not to put Jeffrey Epstein in the same category, but no matter what we give, it's never enough. You know, with Kennedy, we gave everything, and it wasn't enough. With Martin Luther King, we gave everything, and it's never enough. We've already given, I believe the number is 50,000 pages. And it's just a Russia hoax as it pertains to the Republicans. Now, I believe that some of the people that we mentioned are being looked at very seriously for their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein, but they were with him all the time. I wasn't at all. And we'll see what happens. What I just don't want Epstein to do is detract from the great success of the Republicans. Republican Party, including the fact that the Democrats are totally blamed for the shutdown. You know, they cost our country hundreds of billions of dollars with that, at a lot of inconvenience. So they can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much, because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us. It's really a Democrat problem. The Democrats were Epstein's friends, all of them.
It's true.
And it's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax. And I don't want to take it away from really the greatness of what the Republican Party has accomplished over the last period of time.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me. The Democrats steal elections, they blame the Republicans. The Democrats, break everything. They break healthcare, they blame the Republicans. They break housing, they blame the Republicans. They invade our country, they blame the Republicans. Nonstop. Hillary talks about Trump colluding with the Russians. Turns out she's colluding with the FBI in order to rig elections. So we get it. It's nonstop. And the Epstein stuff, I think we've got good indicators that Trump is exactly right. Two little simple hints on this one are Catherine Rumler was texting and emailing with Jeffrey Epstein about talking to the boss. Who was the boss? Barack Obama. How about that? Stacey Plaskett texting with Epstein in the middle of an active congressional proceeding. The Republicans, if they were smart, they would race into this. They would form a committee. They would investigate all of the communications between Democrat candidates and Epstein. Any politicians who are in the middle of a congressional session, have some rules of order in your own house and figure out who was talking with this dude and getting instructions on running Congress from Epstein. It's pretty sick behavior, but Trump is now saying, release the files, something we've been in favor of this whole time. So that's great. We were already told we were going to release the files a long time ago. So better late than never, as they say. So we're going to keep our eye on this one, but the Democrats, I think, are probably going to regret this. The more of this stuff that goes on, the more Obama connections, Larry Summer connections, other Democrats emailing him about having to pee at pit stops and how much they hate fat people, whatever. We'll keep our eye on this one, my friends. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do.